Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like you were disappearing? Not physically, but piece by piece, quietly, slowly, like the world was taking from you and you just kept letting it happen? I have. And the scary part? I didn't even notice it was happening until I was already almost gone. This is that story. There was a time in my life when I thought being needed meant I was valuable. Every time someone called, I picked up. Every time someone needed a favor, I showed up. Every time there was a request, an invitation, a demand on my time, I said yes. Always yes. Without question. Without hesitation. I thought I was being a good person. I thought saying yes meant I was kind. I thought always being available meant people appreciated me. But here's what nobody told me. They didn't appreciate me. They expected me. And there is a massive difference between someone who appreciates you and someone who simply expects you to always be there. Appreciation feels warm. Expectation feels like a weight. And I had been carrying that weight for so long, I thought it was just part of life. I was tired all the time. Not the kind of tired that goes away after sleep. The kind of tired that lives in your chest. The kind that makes you stare at the ceiling at night wondering why, despite doing everything for everyone, you still felt so completely alone. I was busy. But I was empty. I was surrounded by people. But I was lonely. And I couldn't figure out why. Until one ordinary day, something small happened that changed everything. A friend called me last minute. He needed help moving furniture. It was a Saturday. I had already made plans for myself, the first personal plans I had made in months. Plans that mattered to me. But he called, and without even pausing to think, I heard myself say the word I always said. Sure. I cancelled my plans. I showed up. I spent 4 hours lifting heavy boxes in the heat. And at the end of it all, he didn't even say thank you. He just nodded, handed me a bottle of water, and went back inside. I sat in my car afterward and something cracked open inside me. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just this quiet, aching realization. I taught him to treat me like this. Not intentionally. Not consciously. But through every yes when I should have said no. Through every time I dropped my own needs to meet his. Through every moment I showed him, without words, that my time had no real value. That I would always come. That there was no cost to asking. I sat in that car for a long time. And for the first time in years, I asked myself a question I had been running from. What am I teaching people about how to treat me? That question broke something open in me. Because when I really looked at my life honestly, really looked, I saw a pattern I had been too afraid to face. Everywhere I turned, people were taking. And I was giving. Not because they were bad people. But because I had never shown them where my boundaries were. I had never demonstrated that my time meant something. I had never stood in my own corner. I had been so focused on not disappointing others that I had spent years disappointing myself. And the worst part? I had convinced myself it was noble. I called it kindness. I called it being selfless. But if I'm being honest with you, truly honest, it wasn't kindness. It was fear. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Fear that if I said no, people would leave. Fear that without my constant availability, I wouldn't be needed. And if I wasn't needed, maybe I wasn't worth anything at all. That is a painful place to live. And too many of us are living there right now. So I made a decision. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly, in that car, with a bottle of water in my hand and 4 hours of my Saturday gone. I decided my time was worth something. I decided that from that moment forward, I would stop teaching people that I was available for everything. I would stop saying yes out of guilt and start saying yes out of genuine choice. I would stop measuring my value by how much I could give and start protecting what I had. It sounds simple. But let me tell you, it was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Because the moment you start changing your standards, people notice. And they don't always like it. The first time I said no to that same friend, he was confused. The second time, he was annoyed. The third time, he stopped calling as much. And that silence, that absence, it hurt. It made me question myself. It made me wonder if I had made a mistake. But then I noticed something. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was space. Space I had never had before. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to actually show up for the things and people that truly mattered to me. And slowly, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Like myself. But changing how I spent my time was only half the battle. Because I also had to face something even harder. I had to learn how to respond when people disrespected me. See, when you've spent years letting things slide, people get comfortable. They get used to crossing lines with you because you've never shown them where the line is. A comment here. A dismissive tone there. A situation where someone takes advantage and you just absorb it and move on because it feels easier than confronting it. I used to think staying quiet made me the bigger person. I was wrong. Every time I stayed silent when something wasn't right, I wasn't keeping the peace. I was losing a piece of myself. I was sending a message, not to them, but to me, that said this is acceptable. This is what you deserve. And once you believe you deserve less, you stop reaching for more. There was a moment, I remember it clearly, when someone spoke to me in a way that was completely dismissive. In front of others. As if I wasn't even worth the courtesy of being addressed with basic respect. And the old me would have laughed it off. Would have stayed quiet. Would have told myself it wasn't worth the argument. But something had shifted in me by then. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get angry. I just looked at them calmly and said, "That's not okay with me." 5 words. Spoken quietly. With no drama attached. But the room shifted. The energy shifted. And more importantly, I shifted. Because in that moment I realized something profound. Standing up for yourself doesn't require noise. It doesn't require a fight. It just requires a quiet, unshakable belief that you matter. That your dignity is worth protecting. That you are not available to be diminished, not by anyone, not for any reason. And when you operate from that place, people feel it. You don't have to announce it. They just know. Now I won't pretend it was easy. There were lonely seasons in this journey. Seasons where I was doing the work and nobody was watching. Seasons where I was growing and nobody was clapping. Seasons where I looked around and it seemed like everyone else was ahead while I was still figuring out who I was. Those seasons will test you. They will whisper to you that you are falling behind. That you are invisible. That your efforts don't matter. But here is what I learned in the quiet. The most important growth in your life will happen when nobody is watching. The confidence that lasts, the kind that doesn't crack when things get hard, is not built in the spotlight. It's built in the silence. It's built in the mornings when you show up for yourself even though you don't feel like it. It's built in the moments when you keep your word to yourself even when no one would know if you broke it. It's built in the private decisions, the unseen discipline, the quiet consistency that no one applauds but that shapes everything about who you become. You have to learn to carry yourself like you know your worth even before the world confirms it. Walk into rooms like you belong there. Not with arrogance. Not with performance. But with the settled, quiet knowing that you are exactly who you are supposed to be, still growing, still learning, still becoming, but worthy. Right now. As you are. Because here is the truth that changed my life. Your confidence was never supposed to come from other people. It was always supposed to come from you. And that brings me to the most important thing I want to leave with you today. What you tolerate will always speak louder than what you say you deserve. You can say you want respect. But if you keep accepting disrespect, life will believe your actions over your words. You can say you want growth. But if you keep surrounding yourself with things that keep you small, the world will respond to your environment, not your intentions. The day everything changed for me was not the day someone finally treated me well. It was the day I decided to stop accepting treatment that didn't match my worth. That decision, that quiet, firm, internal decision, was the moment my real life began. Because when you stop tolerating less, you create space for more. More real relationships. More genuine opportunities. More peace. More of the life you actually deserve. Some people will fall away when you raise your standards. Let them. The people who truly belong in your life will not be threatened by your growth. They will celebrate it. they will rise with you. And the ones who leave, they were only ever comfortable with the version of you that asked for nothing. So here is what I need you to hear before you go. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. You are not being difficult when you protect your time, set your boundaries, and refuse to accept less than you deserve. You are simply finally being honest about your worth. And your worth, listen to me carefully, your worth was never something anyone else could give you. It was never waiting on a compliment, a promotion, a relationship, or someone's approval. It was always inside you, waiting for you to claim it, waiting for you to stop shrinking, waiting for you to look at your own life and say, enough. I deserve better than this. And from today, my actions are going to prove it. That is where the journey begins. Not with a grand announcement. Not with a perfect plan. Just a decision. Made quietly. Held firmly. A decision that says, I know my worth. And I am done acting like I don't. Make that decision today. Your life is waiting on the other side of it.